What's up, fellas? Hopefully all is well. Uh, right here for NCAA, I actually have an update on this stuff. Some of the data got taken off. I think it was just getting used to how to get OBS Studio set up on this desktop. I got a PC. We are now playing with PlayStation 2 emulated. So that's going to be nice. It's going straight to our off season. Some stuff taken off. This team didn't actually fire Bartleby Jones, so that's at least a nice little plus. But by the looks of it, finalizing recruiting, we were looking at a couple of these recruits. Not so bad. We got, basically at this point, whoever we're going to have on this team is pretty much, or whoever we get recruited is pretty much going to be better than most of the players, just in general, that we already have, since this is a cupcake team. Pretty terrible, pretty dog shit. But looking at the halfback, we got a couple nice transfers and stuff. Obviously, by far, the best player on this team, wide receiver number 85. Westerman's still going to be a focal point because all these transfers, it's not 2024 with that new college football 25 coming out to where your transfers can play immediately. Now, these guys got to sit, and if they've already had a redshirt year, I think it's going to count against them the year that they sit when they transfer and stuff. So, not the biggest boost in player in talent pool, but definitely what we're going to be expecting in the next year. After this one, so season 3, a big boost when we have a free safety number 26 on our team. We're gonna move Mr. Chavez to strong safety. Definitely boost up that team. Jamal Carter is going to start at this point. No, did we move that guy? No. But again, just not enough recruits for us to cut any players. I think our roster has 58 players active, if I'm correct. Again, just not the greatest, recruiting class, but we're a 1-star program. That's exactly what I expected. But even then, just what we can do to improve them. When it comes to, especially starting in NCAA 08, we have the training camp, etc., on top of, summer training overall. But this team, they weren't going to improve much. It's nice to have these recruits. Even if they're a 2-star recruit, they're most likely going to be better than anybody on our team. Obviously the transfer is just even like a 3rd, 4th string wide receiver on any team in the country is going to be miles better than anybody else on our team, so that's nice. We're just going to have to deal with it in this second season of the year. I don't want Mr. Bartleby Jones to get fired, so I might have to do some tweaking with our non-conference schedule. To make our schedule a little bit easier. I know, but if we're going to be, living up to this and, not trying to play on too easy of a difficulty, then I think we just go ahead and fight through it with very terrible competition. So that way we can keep this man's job, not mess up with anything like that. But even then, y'all saw it previous season, terrible stuff. This team is difficult to play with. It makes sense. It only has me imagining how good it's going to be to play with this team when it is reaching that point of like a 4 or 5-star program. Hey, all 6 stars on academics. I think that's actually going to go down when we take a look at what our discipline was the previous season. Again, fellas, I can't stress it enough. Please, when you're doing recruiting in this game, do not get anybody that has poor discipline. It's going to bite you in the tail big time. Start building a team that is completely made up of well-disciplined players. I don't care if they're average you know, if it's 3 stars or if they're average potential. What good is it if your team's going to end up limiting what the few years after that player is going to be? And, start getting 5 to 10 players with poor discipline, then you're really looking at limiting your team in, 2 to 3 seasons later on when you only have, what, 10, 15 uh, scholarships after all that, after a couple seasons of being on probation. It's not a good look. We hit probation to where we're going to be already, again, it's terrible. Again, we're the shit sandwiches, folks. It makes sense, but we're trying to build a program with South Harmon IT. Strength of schedule is just absolutely dog crap, but we'll have to see what it's going to look like um, these first couple of games, how good this team can try to develop into. Because again, in 2 to 3 seasons, I don't expect any of these starters to remain, let alone if they're going to even be a second string, whether or not they've graduated, or if this, I just expect recruits to take over the starting spots of this team, and that means that we're going to be eating up a lot of 2-star recruits, 3-star recruits. We're going to take a really big main focus heading into the second season to get at least, 3 of those type of guys. I mean, that's kind of the trick with recruiting in these old gen NCAA games, is that when you're playing mid-season and stuff in your recruiting, and also too, I mean, you're in off-season recruiting, fellas. I don't know if y'all have checked, but if your program's bad and your coach prestige is bad, you're not having many hours to make up much of anything. Um, so you don't really have the recruiting hours in the off season uh, to get some of these, better players. For instance, maybe a 3-star player or maybe 4-star player that you can jump on. I mean, hey, you can go to the top 100 and select some of these guys to kind of build on. Try to see if you can pique some interest, get them out of nowhere, kind of see if they're not really falling in love with any other teams. Bada boom, bada bing. But if you have a bad team like this, take advantage of having bad recruits that are already going to be better than these pretty much a team full of walk-ons. No point in wasting time like that. And for instance, look at your team overview, go with that team, and then from there, pretty much these 15 players, so we have 15 scholarships available. That's always kind of the case anyways. When you look, it's always 15 for mid-season target recruits. Now, however, look at your team overview. Don't waste your time in-season recruiting. You can, mess around, whatnot, in off-season. Like I said, jump into that top 100. See if you can maybe get that absolute stud, that star that doesn't want to go to, for some reason wants to go to South Harmon IT instead of UCLA, even. Mess with that in the off season. Have fun with it, fellas, and we'll go more in depth in how to approach that. But your in-season recruiting needs to be fully focused right off the bat with these 15 targets, and they have to make sense for your team. You don't know these players at all. There's a lot more information for you to find out in the off season. Again, you can scout these guys immediately in the off season, but in-season recruiting, you have technically all of their metrics. But within that, you do not know anything about their discipline. You know nothing about their potential. But what you do have in front of you, take advantage of what you do have, is your team needs positions. And however terrible this team is, just in general, looking at your team overview, you don't want to get stuck with bad walk-ons that you have to keep on your team when you could be mixing players in and out of position changes in the offseason. So take advantage of this time and really pinpoint. Start off with the 15 players here that we're going to go through in just a sec, to where these players are going to fit your team, fit your team's needs, most importantly, positional needs to where especially when we're trying to build a program here, we want to for sure pick players that are, that way and these dudes are going to start for this team. I can guarantee anybody, if you're going to start off with a bad program, anybody that you end up getting mid-season for recruiting is most likely going to be your starter next season. Get your starters. Because I can guarantee you, if you're short on players with a team like this, a team that's already dog shit, you're going to need to fill this. And there's a lot of positions to fill right here. So it's going to be interesting how to attack this. Now, like I said, go for the positions that are in need of filling on your team with these 15 slots. And then from there, we will go into week 1 to where you can then finally see. Because another thing that's missing is how interested these guys are in you. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of egos with these guys at a high school, especially nowadays when they're on the national scene. But overall, though, you don't know anything about their interests. They're going to be a little interested in you. But even then, out of these 15, you only need to focus on 3 to 4 of them. It's the only way you're really going to get it in general. But for sure, it's the best way for you to improve a team like this right away. It's by far the best way to do it. Because a team this bad, you need talent as quick as possible. And these guys are easily more talented than anybody on this dog shit team that is South Harmon IT. And with that being said, we don't know their interest. And out of these 15, we have the treat that, hey, it's 15 of them. It's not really that many when you kind of think of all the other kind of NCAA games. However, though, the treat is that if you really want to focus on getting recruits, you only have to focus on 3 of them and use 100 hours each and every week for these 3 or 4 players. To where at most, you're only needing to focus, 20 to 20, just over 25% of your total recruits, but you have 15 to play with. So you actually have room. It's a blessing in disguise. You have room to where if you find out that, 10 to 12 of these guys, even let's say 10 to even 13, 14, are, ill-disciplined players, then go ahead and blow your wad on a couple of these players that are very good. And that's just how you're going to be able to figure it out. We're just going to see it in the next coming videos, how to approach it and stuff, but that's just my 2 cents on what has worked for me in the past. We'll just have to see, but again, utilize what your depth chart's going to be with these 15, and then go from there. Later, fellas.